So if you're new to human design, then it's just a little bit about what it can actually mean quite a lot of the time when people dive into finding out about human design, or they've heard of it and their interest is piqued. They want to either know all the things, or they get scared off by the fact that there's so much to know. And either way of those is absolutely correct, depending on who you are and your energy type, and so much more about the way that you do things. When I first found out about human design, I was very much like, I really wanted to go deeper. And over time, I have made complete sense of that, as in my chart, I have the energy for disappearing off down rabbit holes and wanting to find out all the things. The thing that I'm sharing as part of this is helping you understand the importance of knowing that, first of all, that human design is an experiment. It's something that's here to be explored, to be tried out, to be experimented with, because in doing that, that's where you get to find out how your energy best serves you when you use it as it's designed. And also to touch on, first of all, understanding more about your human design type, because that is one of the key components of the foundations of going on the human design experiment that will really help you start to make sense of other things as they cross your path. So that's the reason why in this video, I am just sharing about types. A very quick overview of who I am. I'm a glass half full kind of girl. Perspective is actually something that sits in my chart, helping people see things in different ways, different perspectives, finding the positives and all of that sort of thing. I'm a mum. I was a mum at 16. I am in my second marriage. I've been married now for almost 2.5 years to my soulmate. I'm an activator. The way that my energy works is I really kind of start helping people wake up to things that perhaps they weren't aware of in themselves. I'm an author. I published my first book in 2018, which was my memoirs, my real life roller coaster journey. And then I published a self-help book in 2021 as well. I love to write. It really is one of my things. It's the way that I like to express myself. I also manage something called a tuneless choir, where we sing like no one is listening. And I'm a fun lover. It's just one of the things. I love to be a bit silly. I love to enjoy things. I love to be in the moment. I've been self-employed since 2005, when I worked in the wedding industry. And then over time, that business changed and I tried various different things, which is correct for me as somebody who's here to do a lot of experimentation. And in 2020, I was one of those plot twists, and I pivoted into becoming a coach and helping more people fully understand and activate their own potential. Part of who I am is I'm someone who is here to bring more joy. That is a key energy in my chart. And my experiment, and I've talked about it a little bit on Friday, it was actually 2022 that I began my human design experiment. So I've been on my experiment now for 2 years, which means that a lot of the discoveries and things that I have made over those 2 years have really helped me move closer and closer towards the full potential of who I was born to be. In the summer of 2022, that is when my certification journey in quantum human design began. And I started working under Karen Curry Parker, who is my mentor, who recrafted this potent, high frequency language that really speaks to your potential. Just a quick overview that when you look at someone's human design chart, and as an example, this is mine, when you understand and you know what to look for, this is what you get to find out about who somebody is. It can show you that they are powerful, that they are somebody who has a lot of experience, that they are energetic, they have a lot of energy, they are joyful, they are somebody who's here to be of service, they're a storyteller, empowering, an empath. All of these things and so much more are available in your chart when you come to look at it through the lens of understanding all of the moving parts of the chart. So this is just a reminder that it takes more energy to be a version of yourself than actually just to be who you are. When you're trying to be something that you think you're supposed to be, or you are trying to find ways to do things that make other people happy, That takes more energy than just being naturally the way that you were born to be. Understanding the way that your energy works helps you recognize where you are not being you, recognizing that important not self energy to help you fully express who you actually are underneath it all. You get to understand your default behaviors in a completely new way, recognizing where some of the things that you have been doing are not you, or some of the things that you have been doing are conditioned by the way that you were brought up, the way that you have, the stories that you have told yourself, the way that you have engaged with others from a place of feeling like you are obligated in some way. This can really help you step into your power to be you as you were designed to be. And then you get to understand the impact of your unique role that you have been born to play in this lifetime. When you engage with people in a different way, you get to be more responsive, and it takes you out of that left brain logic energy and into intuitive understanding, that sense of the way to make decisions through how they make you feel. And that is going to be one of the vital things that is changing in the way that a lot of people do things kind of going forwards. We're really, logic in a lot of ways hasn't really been working for us, but that's definitely a masterclass or a spotlight for another time. Very quick overview of how all the types are different. So you have 5 different types in human design and in quantum human design. You have the Manifestor type, who is about 8 or 9% of the population. They are like the producers. If you were to put on a play, they would be like the producers. They would be the people to get the thing started, get everybody up and engaged and getting involved with it. Then you have the workforce. So you have the Generator type, or the Alchemist in quantum human design. They are really the doing workforce energy of that. They are the crew. They are the ones going about doing all the running around, doing all of the making sure that all of those things are being done. The manifesting generators, or time benders, and that's my energy type, they are also part of the crew, but they have a unique way of, first of all, bringing some of that action about, but also having more than one thing on the go at a time. And this is completely correct for the way that the energy of a manifesting generator actually works. They have a lot of doing energy. So both of those types together, when you combine them, they make 70% of the population. The projector, or orchestrator in quantum human design, is known as the director. So they would be the person who would be having the big overview, checking that all of the things are in all of the right places and all of the people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And they're about 20% of the population. And then you have the reflector, or the calibrator in quantum human design, whose energy is uniquely designed to reflect back to us how we're doing as a collective, how we're doing as a whole. Are we really fulfilling the best potential that we are all here to fulfill? And is that happening in a way that is serving us as a collective? And I recently encountered my first reflector properly in like a two-way conversation that wasn't a human design reading. And I fully got to see that energy playing out. It's absolutely beautiful, the way that she engaged with me and was able to mirror back to me some of the things that I was exploring. Was absolutely just such a beautiful conversation to have, really magical. So looking at the manifestor or the initiator. In life, you are somebody who is here to get the party started. You're a little bit like the white ball on a snooker table. So your actions mean that all of those other things happen because you have activated that sequence, a sequence of events. You'll have like a divine spark of inspiration, which leads you to, first of all, taking action, but also initiating others into action, because the way that you work is very much about initiating other people into a frequency of transformation. The way that your communication works is you have something known as the internal nonverbal flow. And what that can mean is because you really want to just get up and get on with the things, your energy moves quite quickly. So it's easier and faster for you when you're in your natural, unique flow to get something done than pausing to stop and explain to someone, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it. Because of that, it's really helpful for you to learn and understand the art of informing and letting people know what you're about to do before you go off and do it, to help them understand that probably interrupting you is not going to be a very good idea. It's not very productive for you. You have this inner sense of right timing to take action because it's a divine spark. It's like it just comes to you and you know. And often you are the type that will be the fastest action taking, providing that you do it in the correct way for your energy type. As a powerful force of nature, you will have immense doing energy, but only when you're in your flow. So finding that unique flow is really important for you to really understand how your energy works. In business, because you're somebody who's here to get the ball rolling, you're a great person to actually get projects started, get them off the ground, get them up and running. What that does mean is that you're not necessarily the person who's going to see a project from start right the way through to finish. You're probably better to be somebody who activates something, begins something, and then hands it over, delegates it. That's quite an important thing and a useful thing to know for you, because if you're somebody who's trying to be doing and completing and going all the way to the end, you are going to run out of steam. If you get all the way to the end, you're probably going to feel like that project hasn't inspired you in the way that it did when you first started it, because your energy is here to just start that off. You're inspired action takers. It's important for you, especially if you are self-employed in business, to allow for rest periods so that your inspirational flow can be sustained. Because what you can find is if you keep going and going and going, it's a little bit like you're running on empty. Then you run out of inspiration, you run out of you run out of energy quite quickly, and you can burn out. And because of that, it's really helpful for you to make provision for income that can work passively while you have those rest periods. It's also vital, as I mentioned earlier, for you to inform others what you're doing before you go off and do something, so that they know, right, okay, they're in their zone of genius and I'm just going to leave them to it, because that is so much more helpful. One of the examples that I give in that, as a manifesting generator, I have this manifest energy as well. And when I'm writing and I'm in my flow, I really don't want to stop for a conversation. That really interrupts the creative flow that you've found. And to stop and even answer if somebody says, what are you doing? You're having to switch modes, and it can be really quite disruptive for your natural, unique flow. So when you're in action taking mode, or you're about to get stuck into something, you can either just have a sign up that says do not disturb, or find a way to communicate without having to stop, think and switch gears. Also, the other way to look at that is it's very helpful for others to let you know what they need from you before you perhaps disappear off into that zone of genius. So key points for you are to understand that as a manifestor type, you have an inconsistent source of doing energy. And what that means is that while all of the chart is available to all of us, no matter where we have coloured in parts, definition, consistency, you don't have it in a consistent way if it's not defined or coloured in your chart. And because that workforce, life force energy is one of those parts that is not consistently available for you, you may struggle to know, you may recognize yourself as somebody who has had periods of burnout because you were struggling to recognize that it was time to stop and you wanted to keep going, much in the way that I described when you start a project and keep going right the way to the end. If you haven't got the sustainable energy for that, it's going to prove very tricky for you. Remember to always inform those around you before you're either going to start something, run off to do something, and also remind them to let you know, before I get stuck into this, is there anything you want to tell me? That gives them the opportunity to do it right then, or wait until you're also energetically available and you've finished what you're doing. If you experience the feeling of like being angry or perhaps irritated in some way, that's a really key sign that you are kind of disappearing off track or going out of alignment. And recognizing those signs, they're like clues for you to pay attention to. So instead of getting caught up in the anger, it's helpful for you to know, right, okay, my body's saying that something I'm doing is perhaps not right for me, and I need to pay attention to that. Find a way to get rid of some of that angry, pent-up energy. As a manifestor type, you have a defined throat center, which means that you are motorized in the way that you express yourself. Words and expression come to you quite easily. To express yourself authentically, you don't need anyone else to kind of add that energy into your chart. However, when you're trying to find clarity on things, it can be really helpful for you to find someone to use as a sounding board. And that means not asking them for advice, but just talk things through to help you find your way to a sense of clarity. Okay, just going to take a very quick drink of water. So, the second type, one of the ones that I mentioned, the generator type, or the alchemist in quantum human design. You are somebody who does have sustainable doing workforce, life force energy. Because it's sustainably available to you, that means you have a lot more oomph to actually keep going and doing things and working. You're the workforce of the world. When something comes along that feels good for you and you feel lit up, that's the best way I can describe it. You feel like, oh, you know, that just feels so good. And that might be people, it might be places, it might be opportunities. You're inspired to take action with your doing energy. You do that in response. So you really start to glow and beam and be your natural true self when you are doing things in response. So something comes along and you respond to it rather than you going out and searching and hunting and looking for all the things. For you, it's correct to kind of daydream a little bit and then allow yourself to see what lands in front of you and take action in a responsive way. You're having a responsive dance with life, if you like. Because you have this sacral center defined in your chart, what that means is that you have a different way of interacting, so that when somebody's asking you questions, you'll have this sense of like, yeah, I'm feeling that. And it might be, as you can possibly hopefully see in the corner, hang on, I'll just move my little video there, where it says, or So that's your sacral sound, and getting to know your sacral sound is really helpful for you. If you are, when you draw your chart, you come up as a generator type or a manifesting generator. So you'll feel like a it's one of the things that I have noticed as, again, and I'll come to this when I come to the manifesting generator section, but with that generated energy, when I'm in coaching sessions, I'm humming all the time. I'm like, just in agreement, you know, like my body's saying yes before my brain has a chance to think about it. And that is correct for generator types. But there's also the other side of that, which is feeling like you're pulling away from those things. No, that doesn't feel good for me. So those questions, when you're engaging with somebody, if they're giving you choices, it is much better if they kind of go, would you like this or would you like that? Rather than what would you like? Open-ended questions can be quite a lot harder for generator types to answer because their sacral doesn't know those answers. Your sacral knows yes and no. As a generator type, you demonstrate your mastery, the way that you have been moving through life and doing all of the things and becoming masterful in what you do when your doing energy is fulfilled and your passion for life is expressed authentically. Okay. So also in business, your doing energy is a real gift to the workforce. You are part of the workforce of the world, providing it's the right work for you, because your work is really important. Doing the right work makes you feel good. Feeling good means you stay in flow. Staying in flow means you are much more engaged with what you're doing and coming up against all of the things that are right for you. So those things all happen in a nice, natural, fluid way. You're here to do that work by exploring and repeating things, which is what takes you on that path to mastery. So one of the things that I'm going to look at a little bit at the bottom of this slide here is about the repetition sometimes can feel like you're taking your time and maybe not always feeling like it's going to lead somewhere. And that then leads to frustration, which I'll come to shortly. You're not somebody who is designed to just do it. It's about that responding to things. So having the thing to respond to first is really quite important for a generator type. You have the stair-step learning curve. So that's going to look something like this. So you might be doing things, and then all of a sudden it feels like you've been preparing for something for quite a long time. And then you come to a point where you're like, now it feels like nothing's happening. Did I do something wrong? I'm really not sure. And actually, what's happening is you're just restoring some of that workforce, that vital energy that you need to be able to take the next upward surge in your mastery, in whatever it is that you're doing. So what can often happen is on this plateau, you can get bored, you can feel stuck, you can get frustrated. So we're back to that frustration thing. You'll notice that's a theme for these generator types. This piece here is vital to recognize that actually the best thing for you to do in that moment is find something to occupy you while you're waiting for the next thing to respond to, whether it's an opportunity or a project, and allow yourself that being time. I often can be heard to say being is doing, because otherwise what will happen is you'll quit, you'll give up too soon, and then you'll just go back round in a loop of starting, quitting, starting, quitting, starting, quitting. And that's just not going to get you anywhere. And you'll feel even more frustrated. And when you feel frustrated, that's when you start to think about whether or not you're in the right place, doing the right thing. So key points for the generator or alchemist types: learning to recognize if you're experiencing stuckness. So just recognizing it, and often that is enough. Just noticing it and saying, thank you, that is really useful information. Thinking about this response thing, when it comes to, if you're in the middle of something and you just feel like giving up, ask yourself the question, are you quitting? Are you giving up in response to something that's come along? Has there something that's kind of landed in front of you, right, it's time for me, I'm done, I quit? Or are you just doing it because you're frustrated and feeling stuck? So because you are doing this responsive dance, responding to things to take action and go forwards, but also responding to opportunities to quit rather than just giving up for the sake of giving up. If there's waiting while you're trying to figure out if you're in this space of it feels like nothing's happening, find something that you love to do. I do things like, so I'm part of a tuneless choir and we sing like no one is listening. I love to do a bit of cross stitch. It's like a really nice choir activity. I've also recently taken up something called diamond painting, which is very much a very mindful activity that really has your energy paying attention to what you're doing. Your mind can go off and do little things, and that's fine, but it just helps you switch gears. Make sure that you find a way to use up and burn off your doing energy frequently. You really need to be looking to go to bed tired and ready for sleep. That's the best way for your energy to operate as it is intended and as it is designed. Play around with asking those yes/no questions to see how your body responds. So even if it's something as simple as, do I want a sandwich or do I want a salad for lunch? So you might think to yourself, do I want a sandwich? And you'll be like, uh-huh. Do I want a salad? Uh-uh. And then you get to know your body's kind of like going, right, good, you're paying attention to me. And it's helping you tune into your sacral response. As a generator type, if you're not feeling fulfilled, that can interrupt your sleep patterns because you can just go to bed feeling like, well, I had a bit of a blah day today. You know, and we all have those, but recognizing that the things that happen as a result of that are maybe, again, taking you off course. If you're not getting enough rest, and then you've still got this doing energy, but you're perhaps not using it in its optimum way. Time for another drink. It is water, by the way. Okay, so now we're on to manifesting generators or time benders in quantum human design. Now, I am a time bender, and I have often had people say to me, I really don't know how you find time for it all. And that is absolutely correct for me as somebody who has a lot of doing energy and a natural skill for multitasking. I have an immense amount of doing energy, but I like to balance that out with the other things that I love as well. When I'm surrounded by those people, those places, and all of that good stuff, much like with the generator types, I feel lit up. I just, it just feels like it's something that's doing me good. It's lighting my fire. Because I'm a manifesting generator, as a manifesting generator, you have manifestor energy and generator energy, and it's magically blended. So you're also following that divine spark of inspiration, which initiates other people. That comes back to what I said earlier about being someone who often activates people into that kind of zone where they want to do something because they've been inspired by something that they've seen me talking about. And I didn't really understand that that was part of my manifesting generator energy until I began to go a little bit deeper and make sense of it all. We do move really, really fast. So there again is that thing about informing, letting people know what you're doing before you're going off to do it. Because when you do that, that is when you allow the opportunity for them to notice that, you are in your doing zone and really need to stay out of the way and let you work your magic. Because stopping to think about something, to answer a question, to do something else isn't just inconvenient, it genuinely stops that natural flow. Questions, again, that whole yes, no response thing, feeling like you are able to go or rather than, for me, the story that I always tell when I talk about this and I do classes is I call it going to Blockbusters on a Friday night. So even though my husband is also a manifesting generator, he will still say to me, what film do you want to watch tonight? And I'm just like, we have so many. It's like, how can I possibly choose? Whereas if he stood in front of me going, do you want to watch this or this? So much easier. If you think about that and you start to notice that yourself, it's a really interesting way that we respond to those things. And it is also, I would love to give you a heap of permission to be juggling lots of things, because that is naturally how you are designed. And there's a really good reason for that, which I'll explain as we come to the next, the kind of roundup of this section. For a manifesting generator or a time bender in business, because you move really fast and are uniquely designed to multitask, you're a great person to have on the workforce. When you're in flow, it works really well. It's great for you to just get on and get stuff done. So it might feel like you're somebody who struggles to plan. And I know that this has definitely been a pain point for me. Struggling to really figure out in 6 months' time, I'm going to feel like doing that. It just does not work for me. And I have come to understand, being part of a big community of human design professionals, manifesting generators in particular can really struggle to map out what they want going forwards, because they just are fired up by things, that they want to naturally follow that flow of. You are also somebody who loves a shortcut. So that repetition helps you become more masterful, but by doing things in a way that means that you get to skip steps, sometimes you're going to have to go back and redo those things. But other times it'll be like you're speeding up time because you're just doing only the things that you see that absolutely need doing. But there are going to be times when you will have to revisit things. And one of the things that I often like to relate this to is I absolutely cannot stand to read an instruction manual. I just can't do it. I scan read anyway at the best of times. And to follow the steps and go really methodically through an instruction manual that is telling me do this, then do this, then do this, no, thank you very much. I much prefer to figure this stuff out for myself, but then sometimes that, of course, can mean I have to go back and fix something that I didn't do right in the first place. So there's that informing piece again, that the questions. So remembering that when you're working with people, it's really helpful for them to ask you the questions in a way that you're going to need a yes or no response. So letting the people around you know, if you're part of a team, hey, when you're asking me something about this project, ask me something in a way that gives me a chance to either give you a yes or no kind of answer. And just letting them know that is really, really helpful. So you're informing and you're also getting to really use and trust your responses. You shine absolutely the brightest when you give yourself permission to wear lots of different hats. You might feel like somebody who's got your fingers in lots of different pies. Maybe you work in a few different businesses, or your business has lots of different aspects to it. You are using up that doing energy, and that is how you are designed to operate. But your doing energy needs to be channeled into the right things. Yet again, as when I explained with the generator types, when you're quitting, that also needs to be done in response to something, not just quitting because you've had enough, not just quitting because you're frustrated, not just quitting because nothing seems to be happening, because that is a real pattern that generator types find. Being for you is a really powerful form of doing, just allowing things to come to you and be as you are, to allow your inspiration to naturally flow. Using up and burning off that doing energy frequently to stay healthy. So physical exercise, going for lots of walks, doing lots of things that mean you are using up your energy, not just staying stagnant and sitting all the time. Making sure you explore those yes/no questions to see how your body is responding. And also one more thing that I just wanted to bring your attention to as a manifesting generator. Give yourself permission not to expect to finish every single thing that you start. Because you have this immense amount of doing energy, some of the things that you start will just have been there to help you use up and burn off some of that energy. That is all that they are for. You may find that you have half-finished projects, and that is absolutely okay. Providing they're ones that you responded to correctly when you first started doing them. And if you're no longer sure about them and they're not lighting you up, put them to one side, put them to bed, get rid of them completely, or pass them on to somebody else. Now we come to the projector types, or orchestrators in quantum human design. You are the guides. You are the wise guides that are here to keep us all on track. You're here to guide other people in this intuitive way. You just have this sense of knowing what's right, what needs to come next. You innately see potential in all the aspects of life. You can't help yourself but see better ways of doing things. Because there's usually a lot of openness in your chart, and like I described with the manifestor types, but you may have skipped just to come and watch the one that's relevant, and that's totally fine. You don't have that workforce, life force energy. So the openness that you are using is usually being borrowed from those people that you are around, which means that the energy is, first of all, not yours sustainably. So actually continuing with something when you're no longer in that person's energy field can prove challenging. But also, you have the gift of choosing how you explore the energy that you are amplifying. You love nothing more than to see other people fulfilling their potential. It can be really disempowering for you to feel like people are missing the tricks that are going to make them take them closer to what they are here to do. And when you're invited to offer that guidance and that wisdom, that is the best way for you to share your knowledge. So, for example, if you can see that something is perhaps not going to go the way somebody else is expecting, and you just feel like this feels like a car crash waiting to happen, and you just blurt it out, they might not really value that. But you can get yourself invited into sharing by offering the angle of, I have some ideas around this that might be really helpful for you to know. Are you interested in hearing that? So what that does is it gives that exchange that means that you know that when they say yes to that, and if they don't, that's fine. When they say yes to that, you are valued, your wisdom and your innate knowing is valued. And that feels, for a projector, far more empowering than just feeling like you can't sit, you just can't watch because you feel like it's a disaster waiting to happen. Again, much like with the manifestors, it's really helpful for you to find someone to have as your sounding board. So don't expect to be able to work through everything by yourself. You're not looking to go to somebody for them to give you advice. What you're doing is just talking your way through all of the things that are coming up so that you can find clarity in your own way. And that is a really valuable tool for you to have in your toolkit as a projector. When you're in business, because as I described just briefly earlier, because you don't have that sacral energy, that workforce, life force energy, you're not here to work in the traditional way. Projectors who are really lit up and actually doing what they are born to do actually can operate in a much more energetic way. But if you're feeling burnt out or you're feeling bitter because nobody values your wisdom, then that can have you feeling like you really just don't understand what to do in your right place. Because you have this inconsistent source of energy, you might not know when enough is enough, and that can lead to burnout. And making decisions from a place of burnout is absolutely vital that you don't, that you take your time and move through that burnout piece and find a way, find the resources, find the people to connect with that can help you find a way to recover from that burnout, because burnout is so common in projector types, usually around the age of 40. So when your brilliance, as I mentioned earlier, is recognized or invited in, that's where you feel valued. That's where you feel like, right, I'm in the right space now to be able to share my wisdom. And there are different parts of the chart where this also happens for the other types as well. But as projector types, it's one of the things you might feel like you're just otherwise going to be sitting around waiting for people to invite you into things. Well, what does that look like? Invitations can come in many different forms. It's really weighing up. Does this feel like an invitation? Working with other people can help you with that energy piece, energizing you into getting started with the work, to have that engagement and that back and forth, so that you can share your wisdom in a way that it is needed, desired, requested, and invited. But your gift, seeing potential, is so, so valuable. Projectors really are here to help us see where we're going wrong in the world and what needs to change and what needs to shift. We need you. So key points for you are about entering into things by being invited, whether it's going, taking some time off work, whether it's going out and doing something with people. The bigger things as well, much, much more important to know. So things like buying a house, making big decisions need to be done by invitation. Is really, really kind of vital for you. As are cycles of rest and regeneration. To other people, or even to yourself, that might feel or translate as that you're being lazy, but you're absolutely not. You're actually working in a correct way for your energy to be able to restore, to debunk and degunk some of the energy that you've picked up as you've been going around that is not yours, to allow you to naturally be in your own energy. You may find yourself feeling bitter, and that's quite a common theme, because when we have all this innate wisdom to share and nobody wants to hear it, or they don't value it, or they push it back, or it just feels like that kind of, they're not hearing me, you feel invisible, and that can cause you to feel bitter. And this is one of the things that we as human design specialists are working with in helping projectors see what their value actually is, to help you understand that. Having a good sense of self-worth is really important for projectors, because when you stand in your value of being who you are, that is where you get to make the most empowered decisions. And I've got a really great book recommendation. If you're a projector and you're watching this and you would like to know what that is, let me know and I will send the information to you. You may just feel like the energy of the world is just all out of whack, and you might feel quite helpless to do anything about it because you see the potential. And that is, again, something that contributes to that feeling of bitterness, just everything's going wrong. And you don't feel like you have what it takes to be able to do anything about that. And that can feel very heavy for a projector type. If your energy is not being engaged correctly, or you're not available, your energy may actually repel the opportunities because you don't have the energy to enter into them. The universe knows. The universe is very wise. Quick drink of water, and I've got one more type for you. Now, this one that I'm going to share with you is the reflector types. And as I mentioned at the beginning, they are just 1% of the population. They're quite rare. They have no motors in their chart, so they have no motorized energy. They have no defined centers in their chart. When you actually see a reflector's chart to look at it in a reading, it's quite profound. So because of that, they have all this openness. Right time, right place is absolutely crucial for them because they pick up so much about what's going on. They can sense the way that other people are doing things. They can often sense what's going to happen before it actually does because their energy is just picking up so much. They're deeply sensitive, very empathic, and that is part of their energetic gift. They have this openness in their chart that amplifies the energy from all around them. So they get to explore everything in all sorts of different ways, giving them deep wisdom and helping explore potential from all around. They have a way of reflecting back to us how we're doing as a collective. So they're like somebody who almost sense tests how everything is going and can feel when things are not going so well. They see all the possibilities of what could be just out there in the world. So they really are, if you have a reflector type in your world, they're really a magical person to be around. As I said, the conversation that I've been having with one of my colleagues recently as a reflector type has just been so uplifting because she's amplifying all of the energy. It's amazing. And it's also really vital for them as reflector types, if you're a reflector type, for you to also have that sounding board. The way that your energy works, you will experience lots of different expressions of energy over the course of a lunar month, about 29 days. And through that time, that will help you find which decisions that you are trying to make feel like the right ones. It can take you a lot longer to come to know when you're making a decision and what needs to happen. So obviously in business, then working also in the right place and with the right people is vital. Allow yourself to sample, a little bit like that sense test I spoke about, sample the energy of a workplace or a potential new team before committing to work with them. That 29 days that I spoke about, it doesn't always apply as a one standalone month thing. Sometimes with reflectors, it can take them several months to come to the right decisions. But knowing that that's how it works for them is really, really helpful because they know that they need to take their time. So you serve as a barometer for the community that you're in. You can gauge the energy in your workplace, excuse me, oh dear, or wherever you are. If you're somewhere and it feels like home, that is right for you. It might be that sometimes you go on holiday and you feel like I just feel like I belong here. You can't even explain it, especially for reflector types. That is just such a common theme. You're definitely not designed to make decisions under time pressures. So deadlines for signing up for things, for you, that is an absolutely incorrect way to enter into something. So if you, for example, somebody gets you on a sales call and they're like, right, you've got, until midnight tomorrow, you'll just be like, that is not going to happen for me. Because you need that extra time to decide. And this is one of the things that I love, the community that I'm in, when they're launching things, they always have extended time, and that's to allow every energy type to come to the right decisions that work for them. So what you're doing is reflecting back how things are going. And it's so valuable for the other types, the workforce types. Sometimes we're so close to things that we're working on that we can't really see what's needed. And having somebody reflect that, mirror that back to us is really very valuable. So if you find yourself in a misaligned place as a reflector, it can take a lot of courage and bravery for you to say, I can't be here now, because you are experiencing so many different forms of energy as you're going through this. And it can feel like a really hard thing to actually pull yourself away from something. But when you energetically sense some kind of disruption or something's not right, that can make you feel physically unwell. So you really need to take good care of yourself. You may find yourself feeling a lot of disappointment because when things are, you have to wait that time out, or things are just not working out in the way that you can see is what is needed to happen, and you have to wait to be able to know whether or not you can take action on something, you can feel very disappointed. But when you're operating well, you reflect all that energy back. Otherwise, when you're out of alignment, you can be absorbing that on energy. So the saying that we quite often use is to be a screen, not a sponge. So not soaking it all up, just filtering. So if you're absorbing all that energy and owning it as your truth, you know, when it is not your truth, that can come to weigh you down a bit. To make change, you need consistency and you need familiarity so that you feel supported. And often how you feel is nothing personal, and they're not even your own feelings. It's recognizing that you feel something, but thinking, okay, that's really helpful information. It probably isn't anything to do with me. I've probably just picked it up off somebody. Might be somebody you've connected with online, might be somebody you passed in the street. There are lots of different ways that you can pick up that energy. So as you can see, that empath theme is very common in these reflector types. I'd love to know if you've watched this. Maybe you've watched it all the way through. Maybe you had your chart and you just, you know, went ahead to your part. That's absolutely fine. Did you recognize elements of you in here? I would just love to know if that has been the case for you.